Good evening. I'm Abby Phillip in New York. Let's get right to what America's talking about. An Oval Office ambush. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa thought he was joining President Trump at the White House to reset relations. Instead, he was accused of allowing, quote, genocide of white South African farmers to happen under his watch. Watch this.
We have thousands of stories talking about it. Sure. And we have documentaries, we have news stories. Excuse me, turn the lights down. Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you. Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no...
The evidence that Trump is showing there with the press in the room has been debunked. There is nothing substantive to these claims that there is a genocide happening in South Africa. But that still didn't stop the White House from fast-tracking the refugee status of 59 white South Africans just last week. Now, here are the actual facts around this. In the last 9 months of 2024, there were more than 19,000 murders in South Africa. Only 36 happened on farms, and only 7 of the victims were farmers. How many of them were white? We don't know, because official data is not broken down by race. Now, even a State Department report in Trump's first term addressed the claims of race-motivated attacks on white farmers. That same report goes on to say that those attacks and murders increased in line with the overall rise in violent crime in the country. Still, Trump accused the South African president of doing nothing to stop his unsubstantiated claim of genocide.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can
take land. And then when they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No, there is
nothing happens to them.
There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now been utilized.
The farmers are not black.
I
don't say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black.
Hey YouTube, and happy Wednesday. So I am back. Covering the Abby Phillips show. You guys know I love Abby Phillips show. Abby Phillips show. Because I keep saying Phillips. Her last name does not have an S, so it's Abby Phillips. And so I watched the Abby Phillips show, and I want to have a conversation with you guys regarding Trump's meeting with the South African president. Trump basically, you guys, I've inserted a clip, so the clip should be in the very beginning. I'm going to have clips throughout the video. I believe I have 3 clips, but I think I'm only going to include 2. I may include all 3, so if you're able to stick around for the clips. So you know how I do. I basically insert a clip, we have a conversation. I insert the other clip, we have a conversation. That's how I do it. And so the clip that you just basically seen was Abby setting up the conversation that Donald Trump, our president, had with the South African president. And basically Donald Trump, it was like an ambush. It's the same thing that he did to Zelensky. I'm not exactly sure why he finds these things to be productive, but I'm not exactly sure why Donald Trump do a lot of things that he does. So there's that. However, he basically ambushed the South African president and accused him of allowing genocide in his country. The South African president is basically saying there's no genocide in his country. And what Donald Trump did was basically expedite the citizenship, or expedite the rights to, I believe it's 59 white South Africans to come to our country and be able to get, I believe it's temporary protective service, or I'm not sure if they were granted actual citizenship. I'm not sure. However, it was expedited that they can literally come to our country, and as refugees, and when there's no genocide, there's places in this world there's actual genocide, like Haiti, for instance, right? However, he canceled the protection for countries like Haiti. However, the white South Africans that that are from South Africa that, of course, the South African president is saying that there's no genocide. He found value in making sure to expedite their protective orders to be able to come here and be in our country. However, not these black people. Now, anybody with sense, anybody that's calling this straight, anybody that's intellectually honest knows what this situation is about. It's very obvious. It's very blatant. It's very in our faces. It is what it is. But I kind of want to, because we already know what Trump is doing. We already know he's feeding his base. We already know this is about race. If you don't believe that, I can't help you. I can't help you because you don't want to believe it. You don't want to admit to it. You don't want to agree that it's there. It's racism on its face. It's very obvious. And so I don't want to have a conversation about whether or not it is what it is, because it is what it is. So I'm not willing to have that conversation. What I do want to talk about in these next couple of clips is Scott Jennings. Now, you guys know I am no fan of Scott Jennings. It is my belief, it is my opinion that Scott is a racist. It is my belief, it is my opinion that Scott is on the far right, and he believes that white people deserve privileges and protections that other people don't deserve. It's in the way that he speaks. And I want to kind of highlight the way that he speaks about this issue, and then we'll have a conversation about it. Like I said, I have a couple of more clips. I remember doing a Scott Jennings video, probably, I don't know, it's probably been a month. I had so many people who were basically saying that Scott was great, he was phenomenal, he was everything, he is the reason CNN is still on TV, like still is, like he's everything. People who believe that, I can't help them. However, I want to talk to the black people who were basically supporting Scott and taking up for Scott, considering what we know now regarding the white South Africans being allowed to come into our country and people from Haiti, Donald Trump basically stopping TPS, protective service, basically for those people and not allowing those people to come in our country. How do you justify it? I want to talk directly to black people who support Donald Trump and who support Scott Jennings. How do you rectify this? How do you justify this? I really want to, and I'm being genuine. I want to understand your argument. I really do. I want to understand your argument. I want to understand how you square these white South Africans coming from South Africa, where the president of South Africa is basically saying that there's not a genocide. These people, Donald Trump made it where these people are able to come into our country and have citizenship and to be here in our country. However, people from Haiti, places that we know is a true genocide, those people can't come into our country. Their protective status has been denied and basically rolled back. How do you square that? How exactly do you square that? I really would like to know. So that is the first clip, and let's go to the other clip. Take a look.
The farmers are black. The farmers are not black. I don't say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black.
Joining us in our fifth seat at the table is Elise Labott. She is the Edward R. Murrow Press Fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations and host of Cosmopolitics on Substack. And you can see there why President Ramaphosa was a negotiator for the anti-apartheid government, because he had extraordinary patience in trying to explain to Trump that what he is claiming there in the Oval Office for the world to see is just not true.
That's right. And he also, brought some props with him. He brought some South African golfers, a coffee table book. He knows that, he needs to kind of, in this feudal system, bring gifts to President Trump. It wasn't enough to stop that ambush, but he tried to, correct the facts, let him know that the majority, and there is a lot of crime in South Africa, the majority is not against whites. It's against blacks. The majority is not against farmers, as you said in the intro. President Trump didn't want to hear any of it. It wasn't till one of the golfers and one of the white billionaires that he brought with him kind of said, look, President Trump, this is what's going on. And I think that's when, then there was a joke about the jet, which we'll talk about later. But that's when I think the meeting kind of turned and the tensions were lowered a little bit.
This is straight out of the conspiracy land of the far right. And it is not based in fact. And it's amazing that this has actually become the foreign policy of the United States based on just straight up. I mean, we have the numbers. It is completely unsubstantiated. I mean, Scott,
you're saying it's not true that some white farmers have been murdered?
No, it's not true that there is a genocide against white farmers.
Okay, whatever you call it, have white farmers been murdered?
Actually, how many
have violence been committed against white farmers?
How many white farmers? Hold on a second. How many white farmers have been murdered in South Africa?
I don't know. Several. I mean, they asked.
No. How many?
I don't know. Several.
I know why you don't know, because those numbers don't exist broken down by race.
I mean, I know this. I wouldn't trust the South African government to tell me. I know that.
How many black farmers have been murdered in South Africa?
Look, you guys are so triggered over 59 people.
No, I'm not.
After we left 20 million people in the country. I don't know why you're so triggered.
Haven't even brought up the people, the white people that Trump picked out because they were white and told them they could come to the country.
How much racial killing are you going to condone?
There are 19,000 murders in South Africa. 36 were on farms. 7 of the farmers were victims. Okay, this is according to the South African police.
And you think the South African government is a credible source?
The other 29, hold on a second, the 29 victims who were included in the farm killings were farm employees who tend to be black. So the vast majority of people killed on farms in South Africa are black. Where is the concern about them?
The concern is that there are white farmers who have had violence committed against them, and they're being threatened. They're being threatened every single day. There's 59 people,
hold on a second.
And you're triggered about 59 people, and I don't know why.
I haven't mentioned anything about 59 people. Why are you only concerned about white people?
I'm only concerned about this story because these 59 people asked for status. They're getting status, and now everybody's freaking out about it.
They didn't ask for anything.
There is no evidence that white people have been targeted. Some white people in the larger issue of farmers, in the larger issue of violence, have been part of this violence, but there is no...
Why are they trying to get out? Why are they... If their concern is that there are white farmers who have had violence committed against them, and they're being threatened. They're being threatened every single day. There's 59 people, and you're triggered about 59 people, and I don't know why.
I haven't mentioned anything about 59 people. Why are you only concerned about white people?
I'm only concerned about this story because these 59 people asked for status. They're getting status, and now everybody's freaking out about it.
They didn't ask for anything.
There is no evidence that white people have been targeted. Some white people in the larger issue of farmers, in the larger issue of violence, have been part of this violence, but there is no...
Why are they trying to get out? Why are they... If there's no...
Scott, the
why
majority...
are they trying to leave?
The majority of...
Have you seen the videos of the people saying, kill the white farmers?
The Afrikaners do not want to leave.
What do you think the phrase, kill the white farmers, means?
Yeah, that's a phrase that the ANC... That was a phrase that, was against the anti-apartheid movement. But the ANC, who's ruling the government, the president's government, has disavowed that phrase, has disavowed any songs, and there's no evidence that white people are being targeted. And the majority of Afrikaners do not want to leave.
They're not a part of the government, Scott. Right. You're taking a fringe movement and you're trying to make it a characteristic
of the height of racism.
It
is the height of racism to say that white people have to be exempted from all violence in any society. And that is what is being said here. If we cannot say, there is no white genocide happening, there is no farm genocide happening, and the argument is some white people have been killed, even though 27,000 murders happened in that country. What are we saying? If anybody of one racial group is murdered, then that that constitutes a refugee status for that particular group.
When the president has also ended the refugee program for all other people in actual war.
There is actual war. No, I don't understand.
I'm not triggered.
You want them to stay, and I guess you want them to have violence committed against them. Does that make you happy?
Go ahead and comment, and then I'll let Sherman.
Violence against all people is wrong.
I agree with you.
Including the white
totally
farmers, but also including the black people that live in Africa. There are 1.5 billion people that live in the continent of Africa.
Like violence of any kind.
There are 1.5 billion people that live in Africa.
Okay.
There are 63 million people that live in South Africa. Mm-hmm. There were 59 people that were extracted out of a continent of 1.5 billion people and brought to our country. And what color were those people? White.
So?
And where were there other places where genocide is happening in the continent where 1.5 billion? I'm not against it. I'm not against it. I want to know. No. I want you to have a complete. I want you to have. I can have a complete thought. I want you to have a complete thought.
My thought
you are okay.
These people are under threat, and now they're coming here, and you're enraged that they're not still under threat.
Can you say that in addition to the 7 potential white farmers that were murdered, the 18,082,000 black folks that were murdered in the country, that's a problem too?
Yes, all violence is a problem.
Yes, and maybe perhaps
the government's policies are targeting these particular people with land.
Hey guys, so in the second clip, you basically see Abby give the statistics, give the figures, give the facts. And she asks Scott, why are you only concerned about white people? Are you not concerned about the mass, like the people that they're saying are being killed or hunted or whatever the case? Black people are being killed at much, much, much higher rates, or being hunted, or whatever, much, much, much more than white people in South Africa. She basically asks Scott, why do you only care about white people? And he says, what I care about is the white people that are being hunted, or whatever his terminology was. That to me was so clear. He's a racist. He is. And the fact that people can't, like, he literally is like, look, I'm not concerned about black people dying. Hey, that's on them. What I'm concerned about is the white people. He said it. It was clear. And the fact that he was like, he's not racist, you're just playing a race card, and you have Trump derangements. I'm just like, but I just kind of wanted to highlight that he literally, and I'm going to play his full answer. I want full transparency. I don't want it to be where I'm taking his words out of context and I'm not giving him the right grace or what. I don't want any arguments to be made. So I'm going to play the entire clip of his answer. And his answer was basically, I care about the white people. That's what he said. And then we have Ashley that goes on and basically say, yeah, and this, because we know that Scott argues disingenuously, right? So he's like, why are you so mad about these people? Do you want these people to die? Scott. People are trying to show you and highlight the hypocrisy. People are trying to show you and highlight how there's grace and favor for one group and not the other. And what you want to do is try to win the argument instead of actually speaking to the facts. Nobody wants anybody to be harmed, to be attacked, to be nobody's looking for anybody to be treated poorly, to be harmed, to be attacked, to be sought after. None of that. What people are trying to do is to get you to understand the hypocrisy in what you're saying, and the racism and the bigotry, and how you and your party favors certain people that look like you and majority of your party. So that's what people are doing. But you don't want to speak to that. What you want to do is try to obfuscate and try to have a different conversation, because you know what you're saying is BS. So that was the clip of Ashley basically telling him, no, why do you want these people to be harmed? So Ashley basically, because she knows Scott and his little ways that he tries to debate, his intellectually dishonest ways that he tries to debate. So what she did was bring him back to her. I don't want anyone to be harmed. No one. White, black, yellow, green, purple, orange, red. I don't want anyone to be harmed. That's not the conversation we're having. I'm asking you, why is it that you're more concerned about 7 people who happen to be white versus 18,000 people who happen to be black? Why do you have more favor and grace for those people that are, according to you, being harmed than you do of this much, much larger number of people that are being harmed? And then he does his disingenuous things. I can't believe you people are so upset about 57 people. Scott, sweetie. So I have another clip. Take a look at this clip and then we'll talk about it on the other side. So the only statement I want to talk about, I believe his name is Charles Blow. The statement he made is a statement America's not ready for, but it's a statement that America needs to get ready for. He said, they're basically, of course, not verbatim, but he basically said, when a white person is harmed, it can be one white person. When a white person is harmed or, killed or whatever the case, which nobody wants, okay? Let's be clear. It can be considered a genocide, but it's like black and brown bodies, black and brown people, they're not protected to the same degree. And Scott, the fact that he said, listen to what Charles Blow said. Scott was like, because this is the thing. This is what white supremacy is about. This is what white superiority is about. Scott is beside himself with the fact that Charles Blow basically said what it is. You have, I believe, 7 farmers who happen to be white who were killed, which is horrible and nobody wants. That was enough to constitute to Donald Trump and Republicans or whomever, that was enough to claim a genocide. However, 18,000 black people being killed, it was just like, okay, well, shit happens. Life happens. And Scott is like, when Charles Blow said what he said, because basically what he was saying, there's a group of people, white people, when something happened to them, we don't want to talk about the crack epidemic, drugs in neighborhoods. When black people, just a side note, when black people do drugs, it's criminalized. You go to jail. You get caught with drugs, you go to jail. But when it's a white person, it's an epidemic, and we need to put in programs to reform and rehabilitate and save. If you don't understand this conversation, or if you totally totally disagree, have your way. I know what the reality is. And people who look like me, for the most part, know what the reality is. And what Charles Blow said is not an easily digestible thing to say. It's not an easily digestible thing to hear from people, I'm sure. But it's the truth. You had 7 farmers, from my understanding, who happened to be white, who were killed in South Africa, which is horrific. It's atrocious. It should not have happened. But that was enough for Donald Trump and the Republican Party to consider it a genocide. But when 18,000 black people were killed, shit happens. I watched this clip and I was just like, I don't understand how anyone can look at Scott and say he's not racist. And because I think, you know what I think it is? I think people look at racism in very, like, I want to make sure I'm saying this correctly. I think people look at racism in these very, very drastic, always drastic ways. Like, if he was racist, then every time he see a black person, he would want to slap him. Racism comes in many, many, many different forms, many different ways. You can have, when people is just like, well, how is it, like, somebody, if, like, say for instance, if somebody dated somebody in their past that was black, he can't be racist, he dated a black woman. My response is always, slave owners had sex with their slaves. You can hold racist and bigoted ideologies and still have sex with a person, even marry a person. That don't mean that your biases go away. That don't mean that the stereotypic ideologies that you have go away. So whenever anybody ever say, well, no, he ain't racist, he got a black friend. Slave owners had sex with their slaves. They had sex with people they owned. I'm going to stop here because I'm getting mad. And I was on vacation. And if you guys haven't been watching the Diddy videos, if you guys only watch my politics videos, I was on vacation. My birthday was Monday, May 19th. I went to New York the first week in May. I went to Vegas the second week in May, and I went to Miami the third week in May. So I haven't been making as many videos regarding politics because I've been enjoying my life and being happy. And I'm going to stop here because this stuff makes me not happy. So I'm going to stop here. And I want you guys to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will talk to you later. Bye.